Keep your voice down. Your father's listening to the radio.
I'm not America's sweetheart.
This is the Annie Frey Show on 97.1 FM Talk.
Well, as I said 2 days ago when they said they won't send them, I said they'll be sending them. They have no choice but to send them. What I think is that we're going to end up with a great deal. I think they have no choice. We've taken out their Navy. We've taken out their Air Force. We've taken out their leaders, frankly, which does complicate things in one way, but these leaders are much more rational. It is regime change, no matter what you want to call it, which is not something I said I was going to do, but I've done it, indirectly maybe, but I've done it. And I think we're in a very strong negotiating position to do what other presidents should have done during a 47-year period. We have 47 years where these bloodthirsty people have been killing a lot of soldiers, a lot of our soldiers, and a lot of other people. They've killed 42,000 people over the last 2 months. And, you get to a point where people don't want to mention that. They don't like mentioning that. 42,000 unarmed protesters, innocent unarmed protesters, many of them hung. So we're not dealing with the nicest group of people, but we're dealing with them very successfully, and the blockade has been a tremendous success. They said 2 days ago, we will open the Strait. I said, no, we're not going to open the Strait until we have a final deal. No, we want to open the Strait. They said, we're not opening. We totally control the Strait, just so you understand, for all the fake news out there.
So President Trump on with CNBC this morning, giving them a lengthy interview talking about the progress in Iran. And, of course, that ceasefire is scheduled to end tonight, 7 o'clock our time. What happens next? Let's talk to Senator Jim Talent, former United States Senator from Missouri, as well as Congressman. Senator Talent, always a pleasure to have you on the show with us, of course. I wanted to know your thoughts on the merits of the ceasefire. When I'm looking through the updates right now on Fox News, among other places, all I see is a lot of accusations that every party has violated whatever ceasefire they're a participant in.
Yeah, I mean it's largely held. I don't think it matters a lot at this point. I mean, I think we have to go back if we want to think about what's going to happen. We have to look at what's been done. So we have attacked, I think I said this when I was on the show last, we've attacked their center of gravity, their ability to generate and sustain power. Okay, so first we took out their leaders, that's their command and control. The Israelis did most of that. We took out their inventories, took out the military industrial base that produces the inventory, and now what's happening is we're moving on, I think, to two things. One of them is choking off the economy that they use to produce the industrial base, and then also applying pressure to fracture the leadership. And it's pretty clear that the leadership is fractured. I mean, everybody is reporting that the civilians, the foreign minister, the economics minister, they're trying to get a deal. The IRGC guys don't want one, and they're arguing amongst each other. They're tweeting to each other and attacking each other. So this is, look, if you successfully, this is military, Doug, if you successfully attack the center of gravity, you do it long enough and effectively enough, the enemy tends to just fall apart. We may see that, we may not, but whatever we do after the ceasefire ends in terms of a direct attack on their infrastructure, we're going to continue this economic chokehold. In fact, it's expanding as we speak.
Does the next step for the United States, bridges and power plants, does that affect the people of Iran in a significant way that what we've done so far hasn't necessarily?
Yeah, it could. It depends on a lot on which particular targets are chosen, but these are dual use. This is dual use infrastructure. So you destroy a bridge, the civilian traffic can't cross it either.
Yeah. You
go after electricity infrastructure, it affects them as well, and that's one of the reasons that we've held off to this point. But we're presenting what's left of the Iranian leadership with two options. Either you surrender on our terms, or we're going to go on and destroy you effectively. That was the game, if you will, from the beginning. That's what we did in Gaza. It was successful there. That's what the president is aiming for here. We will see what option they decide to choose.
Senator Talent, is it possible that, the effort to negotiate peace, I know that right now Fox is saying that they're waiting to hear back from Vice President J.D. Vance, who is supposed to travel to Pakistan to see if they can negotiate something. I mean, I always hear you don't negotiate with terrorists, and I kind of assume that's what Iran is and has been, and why we're eliminating their ability to terrorize people. I mean, what if there isn't somebody to negotiate with? How does this eventually come to a conclusion?
Yeah, the president referred to that. It is kind of interesting because of a lot of the people who I trust on this. I mean, the long-standing Iranian experts are periodically worried the president's going to agree to something he shouldn't agree to. This, while a whole other group of people is, attacking him for being, a warmonger. The president is going to get the biggest victory he can get, and it's clear he's now thinking more in terms of regime collapse. If we don't get that, then I think there'll probably be another kinetic round of attacks, just because of what he said. He's threatened it so directly. I would expect that to happen, and then I think this will go into the effort will channel into the economic chokehold. You're seeing here the deployment of American power across military, diplomatic, and economic fronts, all coordinated towards a strategic end. And we are immensely powerful. When we have a clear goal, we have an intelligent plan, the United States is very, very powerful. That doesn't mean in every domain we can dominate it the way we're dominating this here. This is not how a war in the East and South China Sea would go, okay? But in this context, yes, we and the Israelis are the dominant power, and we're applying it.
Our relationship with these other countries who have, I think at first there was a period of time where it was kind of like, okay, what are these other countries going to do? Are they going, if they had previously been, interested in some level of business with Iran, or maybe not out there just openly saying that Iran is the enemy, Iran starts bombing everybody. It almost seemed indiscriminately at first. How have the countries that are there in the region, have they chosen a side in this conflict, or is that still up for grabs based on a couple of different places?
They've chosen a side. They were begging President Trump to do this. They've made clear since then, by the way, that if the Strait were to open, conceding Iranian control of it, they would stop shipping oil. Iran has been hated in the. This is what is so ironic about so much of the domestic dissent here. The rest of the Islamic world, in the center of Islam, okay, which is the Middle East. It's not the only place where Islam is dominant, but it's the center of it. Hates Iran, and they feared Iran for so long because, and this was a deliberate strategy on the part of Iran, and because if anybody attacked the head of the snake, the idea was the snake would retaliate so powerfully and attack everybody in the region, which they've tried to do.
Right.
But it turned out that the snake was nowhere near as powerful as everybody thought. And so while with this Gambit, with the Strait, for example, they're imposing some costs and consequences on other countries, and including on us, it's nowhere near. See, Trump jiu-jitsu'd him. He said, okay, we're going to blockade the Strait ourselves, and the pain for them is much greater. They've hated and feared Iran for decades, and now, they've chosen sides. We just saw that because Xi Jinping evidently, not evidently, I mean, this happened. He called the head of Saudi Arabia, the king, Mohammed bin Salman, and said, well, we really ought to get this Strait open. Now, it's not reported what the king said, but I can just imagine. He probably said, well, why don't you tell your friends in Tehran to open it? See, because the Chinese understand now this is an absolutely vital supply chain for them, supply lines for them. The rest of the world can come and buy energy from us, and I think increasingly will. That's not a secure supply chain for China. They need this Middle Eastern oil, and they're seeing all these other countries line up against Iran.
In opposition to what the United States is doing, I think a lot of people are curious, too. We certainly helped arm Ukraine against Russia for quite some time, so I wouldn't expect Russia to jump to the United States side of this conflict and, potentially offer some support to Iran and China as well as an adversary of the United States. Are China and Iran, you're talking about China saying, hey, let's get this thing open here. It seems like they could have taken a different path than that. Against the United States. Are we seeing any sort of cooperation between China, Russia, and Iran?
Yes, I mean they've been. This ship we boarded contained precursor chemicals for ballistic missiles that very probably came from China. The president referred to that. He said, "This might be from China." He said, we'll find out." So yeah, but the Chinese, and this is true of all governments, they're reluctant to switch away from the security arrangements that they've made, and they have been cultivating Iran. They felt that Iran wasn't a very important player for them, not only because, or largely because, it could distract the United States in the event that something happened in the Indo-Pacific. Now it's starting to realize, oh, wait a minute, the status quo in the Middle East is being replaced. It's being replaced and will be run by a group of countries who are operating under the leadership of the United States. We need to recalculate and reassess our position. But it's going to take a while for them to get there. And in the meantime, they're trying to figure out what to do. I mean, when you act decisively, your adversaries start scrambling. I mean, their options start limiting, and they don't know what to do. And that's what's happening in Beijing now.
Senator Talent speaking with us right now. Before we wrap this up, I think that everybody listening, I certainly am going to include myself in this, even though I understand the unrealistic nature of it. A lot of us just want to know when it's going to be over. You know, there's a lot of details that go into something like this, and it really comes down to, do you trust the people making the decisions or not? I happen to, so I'm a little more patient, but a lot of people don't. But the president is faced with a political pressure to appease those people who just want it to be over, but also the sensible nature to see the thing all the way through. And I'm wondering, what kind of rush do you anticipate President Trump to be in right now? And what do you encourage people like me who trust him, but also really want it to be over? How do you advise us to handle the next hours and days that are involved in this?
I would have great confidence that we're already in a much stronger and more secure position, and we're going to come out of it in that way. And I'm not, this thing almost transcends partisan politics. That's really what I think. Just eliminating their nuclear capacity has relieved the world of an enormous threat. So the operation's fully justified, and it's already been successful. How it's going to end? It could end the way the operation in Gaza ended, with them signing a deal which basically agrees to our terms, and then we're going to have the difficulty of policing those parts of it that are forward-going, for example. It could end, basically, the major military effort, I don't want to say it's ended because it could be renewed, but since the ceasefire, we haven't been attacking anymore. I do think that the economic pressure, if this ends with the regime still structurally in place, the president says we've achieved regime change. Well, that's true in one sense. I mean, the leaders are all gone. Structurally, it's still there. If that continues, then what I would expect is this economic sanctions/blockade is going to continue and will be strengthened in every way possible. They've already announced plans to do that. So in other words, to choke the regime over time. And then we're going to see, I think it's almost a dead cert that the protesters come out at some point. There'll be some precipitating event. Now, one thing we haven't seen yet that I'm kind of looking for is cyber.
Yes.
And they may be saving that for when the protesters come out. I don't know. So I think in terms of what we think of as war, kinetic action, I think it may already be finished. There'll probably be one more round of it. But I'm guessing. If I were sitting behind the Resolute desk, I could tell you with some certainty, but I'm not. So there's another guy there. So he's the one who knows, and it's not in his interest to be too clear in predicting what's going to happen.
Well, Senator Talent, you always give us a ton of clarity here, a little peace of mind, a little more information than we had certainly when we started, and we're always grateful for it. Thank you for being with us today.
You are welcome, as always.
Take care. Bye-bye. Senator Jim Talent, former United States Senator from Missouri, Congressman as well. Also the chairman of the Reagan Institute's National Leadership Council. Follow him on X at Jim Talent. All right, we're going to break right now. In 12 minutes, we'll be speaking with Will Chamberlain. That Virginia election is today, and in that Virginia election, they're looking to take what I think is a 6-5 map and ask the people of Virginia, do you want to make it a 10-1 map? I think 90% of the people of Virginia are Democrats. Well, Senator Tim Kaine doesn't think so, but is still saying this is the way we got to go. In order to check Donald Trump and his power that the American people bestowed upon him when they elected him president. Will Chamberlain will join us to talk about what's at stake in Virginia and what the Republicans can and should do with the authority they have right now in the majority to make sure that we are actually, how did the Democrats always put it? Not invoking the end of democracy. This is what democracy does not look like. We'll be right back.